I'm Tom Price, Managing Director of Informed Engineering. We're a BIM and information management consultancy that operate in typically UK major infrastructure projects. We've been working on Thames Tideway Tunnel, HS2, to name some of the key projects over the last probably 24 months. And our aim is to make information very easily accessed, widely shared by the people and teams that need to consume it. So I think that's enough about me, and I'm going to introduce our panellists now. So we've got Marcus Rousel, who's Head of Corporate Solutions and New Markets from Hochief. Lampros Arvanitis, Associate Director of Laminar Projects. Andreas Grutton, that manages the CDE systems for Balfour Beatty Vinci. And George Cristoforo, apologies if I don't pronounce that correctly, yeah. Head of Information Management for Balfour Beatty. Yeah, so the title of today's panel is Delivering Better Projects Through Improved Collaboration. So what we're trying to understand here is, what does collaboration mean to everybody? To me, it's sharing skills, knowledge and information, and making the process easy to consume for the people on the project with the right technology. But I'm going to go through the panellists now and ask you, probably starting with Marcus, I think. What does collaboration mean to you?
Well, basically, for me, it's, we have to do something together which we can't achieve alone. So just a very basic definition, and I think that is what it is, what it's all about. So it's we've got a people level, so it's about speaking with each other, about exchanging the right or having common understanding. And that is also, for me, more important than the technology side of things, which we also need to look at. And I think, I'll stop at that end. So otherwise, I'll, tick all the boxes. But we've got people and technology, and I think we'll be speaking about that a bit.
Thank you very much. It was mentioned in the break that Lampros makes data sexy. So I think we'll go to you now, Lampros.
Oh, God, OK. I think Marcus Googled the same thing with me about collaboration and what is collaboration in Google or something like that. But what I'm going to say is that I see collaboration in 3 different levels, like clients and delivery teams collaborating to define requirements at a high level, then defining processes and systems in the mid-level, and then in the lower level is how the delivery teams are actually using these processes and systems to deliver the projects, right? And for me, the focus is how we can use information and data as like valued assets to make sure that we deliver projects on time, more efficiently, and we'll work together to achieve that. So.
Thanks, Lampros. We talked about systems, and Andrea, I know you're responsible for integrating and interfacing with quite a lot. How do you handle that, and how does collaboration play its part in making systems work?
So I think we've got quite a few systems on the HS2 Area North project, and it is about making sure that, Simon, you heard Simon speaking earlier about making sure all our asset data is correct across all of our systems, making sure that we've got a single source of truth, but it's also about making sure that all of our teams understand where they can get what data from, making sure they're talking to each other, APIs can get us so far. Power BI gets us another step. We've got automation in process to bring some of these things together. And I think you've got to think outside the box. You've got to be thinking about, what do we need? Where can we find the quick wins? Where can we make everybody more efficient? There isn't one tool that does the job. We all know that. And there's several tools that do several jobs. So you've kind of got to make sure you've got the right tools, build your technology stacks, and then look at how then you map all of that together. It's not easy. It's never easy, especially on the massive projects. It's a real challenge, but you can get a really good way forward on it. And I know there's lots of people in this audience who've done lots of that stuff as well. And I think, today it's about actually talking about that openly.
Thanks, Andrea. So, George, it sounds like Andrea's got a handle on the systems. How do you feel? What do you feel is the most important part for collaboration on the HS2 project with BBV?
So, for our part, really, is that we've got a common goal. Us, the client, we've got to deliver a project. We've got to deliver it's a big project. So we're collaborating with our teams, but also with the client to make sure we get the right product at the end of the day. And ultimately, if we haven't got the right delivery, our right product to hand over, then nobody's going to be happy. We've also got to be in the back of our minds, because and I'm going to call us geeks because we're all, information, data and so on. We would just go ahead and do things. But I know that in the background, when we go ahead and do things, our commercial team are on our heads. Why have you done that? What have you done that? How have you done that? Do you know what this is? So I think it's getting everybody engaged, not just our client, but the different departments, the different functions of everybody to talk about this, to work out the right solution for what we're trying to deliver.
Thank you. You mentioned commercial briefly there, and I think to protect ourselves commercially, we've got to have very strong processes in place, and those processes have to be followed by the people on the project. Do you feel as though people or process are the biggest factor that we need to approach at this point, or is it technology?
Oh, well, it's all three, but if it's without people are the most important thing. Without people, we're not going to get anywhere. We can have a smashing great technology, and AI. Maybe the next event is going to be focused around AI. We've got that. We can have that, but in the background, if people aren't driving this and being proactive and working with that to get it right individually, everybody has a part to deliver, and without the people, it doesn't matter what systems you have in place. They just won't work. If you just go back to AI, we can teach AI, but if we're teaching it the wrong thing, it's not going to produce you what you need to deliver. So there's people, to me, is crucial. Yeah.
Thank you. I think I'll go back to Lampros now. So I think for the process to be right, we've got to understand what data is expected to be delivered. And that's ultimately the responsibility of the client, and I know there's a couple in the room here. Is the information that we're provided from the client to contractually deliver to clear enough? Or at what point because we have to recognise that there are some points in here that either we or they need to improve on, or we need to collaborate more to understand where the problems are. Do you think the employer's information requirements are providing enough clarity? Or could we improve upon that? Do we need to have workshops maybe with them to show them where we're struggling, so that we can help to influence a better deliverable? Or is it technology? Similar question, but back to yourself.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom. I think that the employer's requirements are improving, right? But I believe that we're not quite there, because I believe the clients need to be more prescriptive, right? They need to define the requirements more precisely, and the delivery teams need to work together to challenge these requirements and then work together with the client to make sure, okay, we have these requirements, what do you really want to achieve? What are your main goals, your main purpose? And let's work together to refine it, and then try to understand what different processes we need to establish, what different tools we need to establish. And I think we need to be looking as well a little bit outside of our industry to better understand what are the most fit for purpose systems, right? And we're talking about many information management systems in a project or in a portfolio in clients. But what we need to make sure is how we can bring all of this together and start looking at ways of looking at data warehousing, start understanding what are the other industries are doing there, and starting to get all the data in one place, in a real common data environment, let's say, and not many different systems, and how we can then make sure that this data in the systems are then delivering against the requirements.
Thank you.
Maybe just to add, if that's okay,
Go for it.
just a bit. I strongly see that things are improving, and that really is what we need, is our clients to be a lot more specific. And it's not about shoving the responsibility from one end to the other, but I do think that if the final goal of which attributes do I need at which stage, if we're just specific on it, that will save loads of time. We're hearing here about people doing automations, really clever stuff. You know, we do it, you do it, and I've heard it this morning, and just try to overcome the gaps and automate, because basically it's a bit of a missing, you know, my English isn't that good, sorry, but you know, our target is moving always a bit, and I really think we need to work together. So I don't want to shift it all to clients, but to say, okay, this is what we need. Do we need 300 attributes for a column? You know, I still see that, and it doesn't make sense, and it really is something what is also difficult to collaborate within a team, because we all have different understandings on how we're going to do it. You have the people say, yeah, we can do 300, and they start running that way, and others say, let's go and discuss. And I think that is something what we really can avoid.
Thank you. So I think with people, we're looking at skills and behaviour. Do you think the industry has the correct skills, and are the behaviours correct to deliver a project like this? Do we need to look outside into maybe different industries or backgrounds or cultures to be innovative in our delivery? And Andrea, this is to you.
I think yes, we do. I think we do need to be looking outside the box always, because we'll never move forward if we don't. But you know, I think we've got some highly skilled people working on some massive projects out in the UK at the moment, but we haven't got enough of them. We've got a massive programme of work coming up. I know what my parent company's programme of work is coming up. So if you then times that by however many more construction companies we've got, it's massive. You know, just on HS2 we're struggling to find staff because we've saturated the market. So it's also about how are we going to fulfil the need for people across all of the fantastic things that we want to achieve in the UK in the construction industry. I don't know the answer to it, but I know that someone needs to be thinking about it. But then we need to be harnessing. So can we work more collaboratively together? So we have centres of excellence that can be, you know, shipped onto a project to go and do this specific thing, and then they can come off and leave them to it. So how can we mobilise projects more efficiently and more effectively based on the skill set and the numbers of people that we have? I think we need to be better at that.
Thank you. Simon's presentation previously, brilliant by the way, mentioned FME workbench. So that's not something that probably would have been typically used on a major infrastructure project maybe 5 years ago. So you've gone for a skill set there and a resource that's outside of the norm. How did you come up with that approach? Whose idea was it, and how effective has it been in helping your delivery? To both of you, really, that one.
I mean, I'll stop and start. I mean, I think they were using FME before I arrived on the project, so I'm not sure the ins and outs. We have several people on the project. We've got GIS people who live in FME all day long. We've got, you know, our project controls people who, again, they live in it all day long. Simon and, you know, Morton up there, I know he knows FME as well. You know, we've got quite a concentrated skill set on the project of that. I personally want to know lots more about FME because I want to see how it can be useful to me. It's one of my little goals that I've got for myself to learn it, and I think, you know, if you don't know what FME is, don't ask me what it stands for, go look it up. It's actually really cool. You can do loads of great stuff with it, and there's a couple of people in the room who could probably talk to you about it much better than I can. Thank
you. I think I'd like to open this up to the audience a little bit now, and you can only pick one, and it's from people, process and technology. The pressure's on. If you could all raise your hands for whichever you think is more important. This isn't a trick question. So we'll start with people. Yeah, thank you. Process. Technology. Yeah, so I think the overriding, and that was a trick question, but I think everybody answered in the way that we have previously discussed we expected to see. The people have really got to, as was mentioned earlier, want to deliver a good job. Pretty much everybody that I've worked with does want to do that. The process has got to be clear, easily communicated. To people who have not necessarily been involved in a project like this before. So I know BBV have been very good with taking people from different backgrounds. I think an ex-serviceman and ex-police have joined the team and been trained up. So they have the right behaviours and culture, and they can be trained how to use the technology with the right process. But do we think we have the technology now to deliver what is required of major projects like HS2? And is the open source delivery available to us at this point, or does it need further development? And that's back to you, George, I think.
Okay. Do we have the technology? We've got quite a lot of technology, but I think the open technology that we're probably talking about is industry foundation class. I think that's still. I think the standard is now out, and I probably was out the last week, 2 weeks or something like that. Very. So we're looking at that. It's new. So therefore we've got a lot of work that's happening in the background to build on that and work out what we're going to do and how we're going to deliver. And it's probably going back to getting at what the client's requirements are. We believe what we know what the client's requirements are, but we've got to work collaboratively to work what we believe they require to what we've got to deliver. So, but there isn't going back to the question about technology, is there technology out there to get this working straight away? No, not really, I'm going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I add on this?
Yep, Lampros.
Awesome. I want to add on the last two questions, actually, about the people and the skills we have, and also if the technology is there. I think we need to start looking more, again, I would say, about other industries, right? Start looking what other people are doing outside the construction industry. We have people working in data analytics, data engineering, that they can do things very, very good, much better than we know that they can be done, right? So we need to start coupling these people with people from the industry, with domain expertise, and start creating innovative solutions with technology that is already there, like Microsoft Azure or the sexy Microsoft Fabric discussion recently. You know, I'm trying to be sexy here. So it's about looking outside and looking at the technology that is available, not only in the technology we know of and we are very comfortable with, but also the technology that is out there in the world.
Thank you very much. Marcus, anything to add to that?
Well, yeah, but to be honest, I think we've got all the tech we need. It can always be better, and it will be better, and we're moving on. I really think we're down to that metadata is missing, and that bit, it's not a missing end on the technology. Why collaboration isn't as good as it could be. So maybe just an example. Last year or the year before, we were part of or supported the Houston Partnership on a topic about collaboration. So we've got National Rail. You guys know all better than I do, I guess. Who was part of that. And just in one session, we've done workshops. It was about we got the dock controllers and everyone working in their own systems for 100 years nearly. Not dock control maybe, and there was a lot of frustration there. And at the end of the day, it was all about, okay, people have got different definitions of certain codes. So we've spoken about it and we got it. My S1 means this and mine means that and whatever. It's just clarifying things. It gives, that certainty and it's solving things like this. It has nothing to do with the technology. But I really think that that is where we as an industry have to improve, to be a bit more leaner. We only have a certain amount of people. And I think we can be a lot more efficient on that. So, yes, and I do want more tech. That's not what I mean. We need that, and it gets fancy. But it doesn't make sense if there's such a huge gap between highest end here and no one really can maintain it and bring the right stuff together. We have to move on.
Thank you.
Can I just come in on just really quick? I do agree we've got the technology, but everything's moving so fast at the moment. Progress, we've all seen it. So we need the technology providers to be moving as fast as we need them to be. And sometimes I feel like they're playing catch up with us. So sometimes we want to do this amazing stuff and we can't yet. It's coming, we keep getting told it's on its way. We kind of need them to step up a little bit and provide us with the technology that we need ready for when we need it.
Yep. I think a great way to do that as well is the Bentley user group. So that was something that we've used a lot in the past to try and steer that conversation, so that we're actually getting the message back to the software vendors, so that they understand, look, we're having a problem with this, we'd like you to help us address it. But unless we're very clear in that message, and going back to what Marcus said earlier on, unless we're very, very specific in what we want to resolve and what we're having problems with, they're not going to be able to help us. And the Bentley user group will be a great forum to have that conversation, at least from a Bentley perspective. I can't comment on Autodesk in here. To try and get things moving in maybe a quicker way. Earlier on as well, it was mentioned that we have to challenge the clients if we believe that something can be done in a more efficient way. But I think the important thing with that is we challenge it with a solution. Challenging just because we're finding it difficult is never going to work. A client wants to see that we're able and capable and innovative to resolve our problem using the contract in the way that it should be used. You know, an early warning isn't necessarily an aggressive tool. It can be used to highlight a risk, to say that, look, we can see that something is going to be a challenge. Let's open up a risk reduction meeting here and start to talk about how we can get around this, and bring in the vendors, bring in key players, and external influencers with data and software development backgrounds, so that we can maybe come with a bit of weight behind us with big clients like HS2 and Highways England to develop something that's really cutting edge. I think everybody in this room would like to produce something that solved a complex problem such as IFC for the industry, but we have to be able to communicate that in a clear message to those developers. And I think, as I know, we've got about 10 minutes left in this session. I'd like to open it up to the panel. And I'm looking at a few people that I'm sure will have something to say here. The topic is, what does collaboration mean to you? I'm going to pick on Harry Parnell, because I'm sure he'll have something to say.
Thanks, Tom. For me in my career, if I look at collaboration, that sort of is getting in really good friendships together to actually trying to achieve the outcome. Obviously, it's mentioned about commercials and that kind of thing as well. Yes, we still got to live in commercials, but sometimes we need to actually sort of go, this is the detail, we agree what we need to do, and then we carry on that journey of our digital strategy and try and get them outcomes. We've had National Highways, we've done that on RDP, Regional Delivery Programme. With Atkins at the moment in time, we've got models, we've got the components, we've got the digital rehearsal sort of going now. That was never stipulated by National Highways that we want BIM, we want this, and it's the CAD standards. But again, it's been collaborative with the consultants and the contractor and the supply partners, that should not be forgotten, to basically get that project outcome and hopefully deliver the project kind of a more productive, cheaper and safety for the people we put out on site. That's
Brilliant, thanks Harry. To really put the cat amongst the pigeons, this is going to go over the fence to the client, to Lawrence, who I know Harry deals with. If you could give us an idea of what collaboration means to you, that would be great. Thank you.
I'm fortunate that three of your panellists I work with very closely, so the collaboration is hugely in part of it, and I without a doubt I would treat the three people on the panel I work with. We collaborate hugely closely together. We have a very open relationship in terms of they're very willing to challenge some of our requirements. And you mentioned about the risk reduction meetings. We do not see a risk reduction meeting or an early warning as any way as confrontational. It is absolutely about eliminating risk. Actually, I just want to shout out the work that Andrew's done in bringing in the new skills into BBV, data scientists, people who diverse backgrounds, bringing them into a team, training them up with all the skills, and then letting them loose to go and play. I think has been absolutely phenomenal, and some of the rewards we're seeing come back to us are really incredible. So I would, if any sort of contractors, clients could back that as well, the results are really starting to show. So that sort of collaboration, I think, is awesome.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? That one first. Go on, Ian.
Thanks. Ian Miskimin, various hats, organisations. So my question is to take that a little bit higher up the level. And we've seen this over the years, that the collaboration between the client organisations is not as good as it could be. We look at the projects that we've done, having been involved from the very early days of Victoria Station Upgrade with Andy, and then moving on to some things like Crossrail, some of the Highways World, some of the various rail projects. And each time we start again on the lessons learned. The collaboration I'm not seeing is the collaboration between client organisations to say, what lessons did you learn? What problems did you come across? Can we learn from that? Can we collaborate better into the future to stop wasting public money on learning those lessons again and again and again as we go through? So I don't know whether the panel have got a thought process on that one. That'd be great.
Well, I think I agree with the lessons learned. We don't, as an industry, I don't think from project to project we learn as well. And I'm going to say as well because I know the lessons learned. We do move them from project to project. My parent company, Balfour BC, we have moved them from project to project. I've come from a nuclear background. I brought some of the lessons learned from that one onto the next project, brought it onto this project as well, HS2 that I'm working on at the minute. So, but you're absolutely right, because we do go from project to project, and we feel sometimes that we are starting a project as if we've never ever started a project before. So, I think as an industry we tend to do that, yeah.
Yes, I think on a personal level,
yeah.
You bring that.
Yes.
On a personal level, you bring it across, and the lesson learns are great, because if you go through different projects with Balfours, those lessons have been learned. That's great. But it's actually the client organisations themselves, I don't think, are learning to collaborate properly. Can I please? Yeah.
Definitely. So Ian and I know each other from well, so you won't be surprised. But I would say we did learn a hell of a lot from Crossrail and Victoria Station Upgrade. That's one of my previous projects as well. Certainly the work that I would say people like Ross Denton did on the asset management and how the project was absolutely taken forward onto HS2 and what we're doing now. So there has been big lessons learned. A lot of the team had transitioned across from Crossrail, so there's a lot there to be said. But I would also say we need to look beyond our industry. We need to look at people like the car industry, the aviation industry, and to see how they manage data, for like how Rolls-Royce are managing data about their engines and things like that, and servicing. It's beyond that. So it's not that we're not. What I would say is it's what's often inhibits us is the project-related nature of our work. It's not like an organisation. It's a project, an organisation that comes together for a number of years and then disbands. So I would say the learning legacy work that Crossrail did was absolutely fundamentally and excellent. What it does, and it allowed it to be a legacy, and for people like me to pick up and learn from that and take it forward onto the next project. So I think there's some really good stuff that's been done there. So it's not that we, as client organisations, we've ignored it. We haven't.
I'm Andy Smith from National Highways. Taking a bit of a slating, I think, but it's sort of like. I've only been with National Highways 4 years, and before I was there, we weren't capturing any information. We weren't capturing data, especially on the engineering side. Okay, our supply chain are self-assuring, and we were tending just to get lumps of data back. Okay, so it just came in. It was all signed off, all done. Project managed by us. There's your asset, okay? So sort of like the work that we've been doing with ACOM, okay? What we've been doing is on some of these smaller projects, we've actually been collecting the lessons learned from the supply chain and internally, and we've been publishing that information back to the project management team and hopefully trying to sort of educate them so that the next projects that they go on to, they understand, because sort of basically National Highways is about 50 projects at any one time, all working in a little bit of a silo. So internally we're trying to do that work and trying to make it better, trying to make it so the next project that they're coming back to us and saying, hey, well, there are some employees information requirements, there is a standard, there is this, okay, because we've got projects that have got no standards at all applied to them, or sort of the supply chain standards, and we've got some very good stuff like on the A303 where it's been sort of like delivered to the dot, okay. So, but it's sort of like we're trying to work hard internally, but it's sort of like I'm really happy to work with any of the supply chain that sort of want to come to us and say, hey, we've got a better way of doing that, we need to do this. But you know, it's sort of it goes both two ways as well. Okay, so
I think to defend the clients, I think the lessons learned are captured very well. I think the distribution of those lessons learned maybe needs a bit more structure in how it happens. I know from personal experience on Tideway, we set up the technical conference at the ICE's headquarters and invited about 250 people to come and listen to the critical things that we've had issues with and encountered and how we got over them. It was a select guest list of people that we thought would find that information valuable, but there's a lot more than 250 people in the industry that need to hear that, and initiatives like Project 13 were brilliant to pass those messages around. And maybe we just need to look at reinvigorating that and make sure it's part of the client's requirements that we have a day every so often that get together and discuss this with industries and projects outside of our own. I think Mike's got a question.
Hi, Mike Clark, CAVenture. I'd like to ask the panel a question. People, process, technology. I'm very much in the people camp here. So how can we, as an industry, collaborate better with education to inspire the next generation?
Andrew, I think you're probably a good one to take that.
Well, it's interesting what Lawrence was saying about the fact that we employ from quite a diverse set of backgrounds. My team is as diverse as you probably could get, and they are amazing people with such different skill sets. And I think, yes, education, and let's bring apprentices in, let's bring trainees in, but let's just bring people in from other walks of life. Silly story, I've poached someone from the reception on the hotel that I stayed at for ages because I saw potential in them. And it doesn't matter for me, so long as you can learn, as long as you have the get up and go to want to do this, you are interested. Most people can be taught most things. I want people who are enthusiastic and want to deliver their best. That person I'm talking about is at another conference today up in Leeds for the technology that they are leading on. I think it's really important that we just see things in people. Don't necessarily always look at qualifications. Look at other potential inside someone. And that's how my team has been built and how it is so great. But yes, we need to be into the universities, we need to be into the colleges. I know Alison's here and we'll probably be touching on some of this later anyway. So it is crucial, but we also have to have the learning right. We tried to get some apprentices from a college and they just couldn't provide the right courses for us. So it's about how do we actually help the education providers to help us, because at the moment, to a degree we're struggling. But again, I know Alison's got all the answers to that, so that's great. And you'll hear from her later. But I think that's a lot that we've got to do. We've got to actually help these education places to understand what we need, understand what the country needs right now from skill sets, but we've got all this knowledge in this room right now. We could be helping design courses and content and things like that. We've all got the knowledge for it, so let's help them because it helps us down the line because we can get staff.
I have a feeling we might hear something about that a little later.
That's what we need to do. We've got lots of knowledge. Sorry. we've got lots of knowledge and experience in this room, and there's lots of major clients and major, supply chain partners here. We should be supporting people to, young people to get into this industry that served us so well. I've enjoyed my last 35 years, but I'm going to retire, Elaine, in a couple of years' time, maybe. So, who's coming up behind us to do the next set of work and take this on?
Absolutely.
Can I add something on this? I think also clients need to play their part because they can set up social value requirements in the contracts, right? And what we could see in Tideway and Mycostain times, right? Because these requirements were there, then we were working with local universities and local schools, and we were consulting with them, and we were shaping the modules with them, right? And we were taking apprentices, we were taking students to do some quick trainings and things like that. So I think it needs to come from the up as well. We want to collaborate, we want to share our knowledge, but everything is about requirements, right, at the end. And these social value requirements help everyone to have something, to have a goal and a purpose.
Yeah, and I think vocational training is really important, and I think there is things in development here, and I'd like to pass over to Alison now to talk about that, I think.
I'm just going to say about 10 seconds. If you are bidding for Stratford Station, you're going to work with a curriculum that's been around for 15 years that is doing exactly what you want. So, social value, talk to your people, because we all know in this room that this needs to change. Unfortunately, the people who do the social value, and even, dare I say, the HR, and I know I'm going to get bashed for that. I'm from Yorkshire, I'm used to being bashed. It's all good. Talk to your social value, because procurement is everything. London Legacy Development Corporation, if you're going to work with them, you have to work with us. You have to. I'm sorry that it's been dragging, kicking and screaming to have to work with people, you work with young people, but unfortunately, that's the way we're going to solve the skills gap. We don't have one. I'll tell you more later.
Thank you.
Can I just add to that? So just for us, we're pretty lucky because HS2 have put that in our contract. We've actually got about 4,000 odd people across the HS2 lines, that have either not been unemployed, have just come out of training or something like that. They're working on the route, and us in particular in our department, we've got 9 people that we brought in as trainees, which are training. Some of them are in Andrew's team, not all of them, and they're bringing them, and that's 9 people in the last 2 years that we're training up. So we've upskilled 9 people, and we've already looking at those moving up to the next stage. So they're the next ones, and we're looking at, what's the next cohort going to look like? So, yeah.
Thank you. And I think it's very important that vocational training from an early age is included in that. I mean, I'm very biased myself, having left school at 16 and went straight to Arup and did part-time education. But with what happened with COVID and the change and shift in working from home, the way I learned was sitting next to very experienced people and watching what they would do, essentially shadowing. That dynamic has changed quite considerably now that people have a 2-3 day work from home, sometimes more than that. So it has to come from the schools from an early age so that they understand that the job before they're thrust into it, and possibly working from home 2 or 3 days a week themselves. Does anybody else have any questions?
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask questions, but I'm curious, building on the bringing in resources from other industries and particularly people that can do data science and data warehousing and all the stuff you referenced. People who can code, at least until Copilot puts them out of business in a few years' time, are not short of options. So how do we make working in this industry more inspiring and more interesting to people with those skill sets?
Over to Mr. Sexy Data there.
I think we need to give them a purpose. I think we need to convince them that this industry has so much opportunities at the moment, right? And if they come into this industry, they can learn, they can shape this industry, right? If we work all together. So I think maybe we could fit at Laminar, we're bringing people from data engineering and data science and data analytics, right? And one of the key messages is that maybe where you are now, you are doing something day in, day out that is very standardized and you do it every day and everyone else is doing it around you. But if you come here in the construction industry, you will help people to learn and you will inspire people, right? Because they haven't seen this cool stuff, and you will pave the way effectively, right? So you need to inspire and motivate these people outside the industry to come in and shape it effectively.
Thanks, Lampros. I think that concludes the session now. One more. Go on, one more.
Daniel Schofield, Volker Fitzpatrick. One of the fundamentals of collaboration is the use of the CDE. What we're seeing in recent years is an explosion in offerings of CDE systems. What a CDE actually is usually ends up being a myriad of combined systems for different types of data. The concept of a CDE, having a single source of truth, having a single platform versus multiple different offerings being interconnected, these are the two ways I see the industry going. Do you think there's a preference between the two? And do you think, as an industry, we've actually got a fundamental grasp on what we want as a CDE?
I think there's probably quite a lot of confusion between CDE and EDMS. And frankly, I don't think it matters too much which way you go about it, as long as the process map for how the information and data is created, stored, managed and consumed, and that's made available to everybody on the project. Everybody's going to approach it in a different way, no right or wrong, as long as it's to the standard that you're governed by, normally 19650. But there's plenty of ways to skin a cat, I think, is the answer to that, but it just has to be clear. And I think that's it. So thank you all for listening, and thanks to the panellists. Yeah.